In this project, we're going to look at the YouTube Data API version 3. Alright, so this will be the first project where we actually deal with a third-party API. So with the YouTube API, you can do a lot of different things. You can list videos, channels, playlists. You can even upload videos through it, update videos, all kinds of things, manage ads. So in this project, we're going to be using the search API so that we can actually have a YouTube search engine all on our site. All right, even the results will open up in a lightbox so we can watch the video on site. All right, so complete YouTube video search script, Data API version 3. Okay, it's really important because version 2 is still available, but I would definitely suggest if you want to learn about the API, use version 3. Animated search box. All right, so this will be another piece of JavaScript on in this application. When we click in the search box, it'll extend, it'll kind of animate and grow bigger, and when you click out, it'll shrink back up. We'll use the channel list and search list methods, okay, which I'll explain later in the chapter. We're going to use the FancyBox plugin to open videos. All right. We don't want the search engine to find the videos and then have us click on them and take us to YouTube to watch them. We want them right on site. So we're going to use this plugin to actually play the videos in a lightbox. And we'll also have previous and next page paging. So section 1 is the intro. Section 2 is going to be the HTML and CSS. Section 3 will be the search bar style and animation. Section 4 will learn how to make an API GET request through jQuery. Section 5 will be displaying the results from that GET request response. And then in Section 6 we'll add the paging buttons and also the video lightbox. So you'll learn a lot in this project. We'll look at the jQuery animate method for the search box. Of course, the YouTube Data API, we're going to learn quite a bit about it. Making GET requests using the GET method, looping through a result set and dynamically inserting it into the HTML, and API page tokens, and the FancyBox jQuery plugin, which we'll use to watch the videos. Alright, so there's a lot to learn in this chapter, and let's get started. Alright, so in this project we're going to be using the YouTube Data API version 3, which is the current newest version. Alright, so basically what we're going to do is build a search engine where we can type in something into our search box and it's going to search YouTube for videos that match our search phrase and then display them nicely in our website or in our application, and then we're going to be able to click on it and have a lightbox open up so we can play the video. So we're not actually going to be redirected to YouTube at all. It's all going to be on our site. Alright, so we have this really simple, clean looking template with this search box, and this search box, if we click in it, it does a little animation, okay, opens up. If we click out of it, it goes back. Alright, so that's a little jQuery right there that we'll have to do. And then we can search for something, let's just say web design, and you can see that all the results come up nicely on our site. And if we go to the actual YouTube site and go ahead and search web design, we're basically going to get the same thing. All right, you can see it's a little different because we're not showing ads. Whoops. All right, so these here aren't going to show up, and we could have them show up if we wanted to, but I've added the options in here so that only videos come up. All right, so channels aren't going to come up, things like that. It's going to be only videos, no playlists. You can choose to have that stuff show up, but I just wanted the videos. Alright, and then if we scroll down, you can see we have 5 results by default, and then we have some paging down here, so I can click the next page button and it's going to take us to the next page, and now you can see we have the previous page. Alright, so it looks really nice, and if you click on a video, a lightbox opens up and you can play it. All right, so we're not going to be redirected to YouTube at all. Okay, we're going to stay inside of our application. All right, so that's what we'll be building. And if you're interested in this YouTube data API, I'd suggest going to the developers.google website and just browse around this area here, the YouTube v3 getting started. All right, and it pretty much tells you everything you need to do. It gives you all of these resource types that you can use. All right, we can use functionality with videos, channels, users, playlists, pretty much anything. You can pretty much do anything through this API. You can upload videos, create playlists, and I mean it does get difficult in terms of the code, but you really have a lot of flexibility. All right, so this here is the API console, Google Developers API console, and you're going to have to get an API key in order to build this application. All right, so just go to console.developers.google.com, and you want to click over on APIs under APIs and auth, and you want to select the YouTube data API. All right, I already have it enabled, but if you don't, it'll be somewhere at the bottom, and just click on it, enable it, and then you'll have to click on credentials and get an API key. I'm actually going to delete this. All right, I have one key here and it's public, so I don't really care if you see it or not. You can use it on any domain. All right, so you just got to click on create a new key, and you want to use a browser key because this is going to be on the client side. All right, and then just you can add certain domains that it'll work from, or you can choose to have any refer allowed. All right, which I'd suggest for just testing applications like this. It's not a production app. So all right, so once you get that, copy and paste it in a notepad file or something, because you're going to need it later on. All right, so let's get started with the interface, the HTML. All right, so we'll go ahead and create our project folder, and let's call it search vids. All right, so we're going to need a couple things here. We need our HTML file, of course. All right, and we'll create a CSS folder and a JavaScript folder. Just see, I think that's it. Images, okay, we do need an images folder as well. And you'll have these images in your project files. I'm just going to grab them from the completed project. All right, basically a lot of these images are from the FancyBox plugin that we're going to use, which is a jQuery script. All right, and it comes with these arrows and X out buttons, things like that. The search icon we're just using in our search bar, and that's pretty much it. We have the background of the site has this texture and this top dark bar thing. All right, so I'm just going to grab all of these and bring them over. All right. So let's go ahead and open up the index in our text editor. Okay, I'm going to open the index, as well as we need to create a CSS file. So I'm going to call this style.css. Okay, and might as well open that up. All right, now we'll create our JavaScript file. And this is going to be called script.js. And we'll open that up as well. All right. So let's go ahead and just add the initial code, the initial HTML. Okay, we want a HTML5 doc type. And our HTML tags, we want our head tags. and we'll put up a title in here called search vids. Alright, we need our body tags. Alright. So before we type in the body, let's link our files. So we need our CSS. So we need a link tag. And this is a style sheet. And we want our href to go to the CSS folder, and then style.css. And then our script is going to be script src js script.js. Alright, now we also need to include jQuery, and feel free to go to jQuery.com and download it and put it in your file structure, but I'm just going to use the Google CDN. So I'm just going to paste that in right here. Alright, you want to make sure that your jQuery file is before your script file. Alright. So let's move on to the body. And we're not going to have a lot here because a lot of the HTML is going to be generated through JavaScript. Alright, we're just going to put a div, and then JavaScript will take care of filling it with the API data. Alright, so let's create a div. We'll say ID container. And in our container, we want a header. Okay, so we'll use the HTML5 header tag. And then an H1. And let's see, search. And then I'm going to add a span around the vids part just so we can use a different color for the text, kind of like a logo. Okay, so span vids span H1. And then we'll just have a little slogan here. We'll say search the YouTube video. We'll just say search. I don't know. Search all YouTube videos. It's not really important. All right, and so that's it for the header. Now we're going to have a section. Alright, and in this section we're going to have our form. Okay, so form, we're going to give it an ID of search form. And we're going to be adding the JavaScript for this form to Animate as well. So ID search form, let's give it a name. Same thing, search form. Alright, and then we're going to give it a a submit handler. So on submit, we want this to return our search function. Okay, so we'll create that in a little bit. Alright, now I want to have another div here with the class of field container. Oops. It'd help if I could spell. Field container. Alright, and then inside of there we want to have our search field, so input, and the type is going to be search. Okay, this is HTML5, so we can use the search input type. And let's see, we'll give it an ID of query, if I could spell it. Okay, and then a class of search field. And let's give it a placeholder. And we'll just say search YouTube. Wait a minute. Not sure what happened there. Alright, and that should be good. Okay, so next we want our button, which is also going to be an input. Okay, it's going to have a type of submit. And we'll give it a name of search button. Same thing for the ID. and then the value is going to equal nothing. Alright, so this isn't going to look very pretty, but we'll take a look at it. One thing, this I'm on my local host here, or not even, I'm actually just in my file structure, so this link to the jQuery CDN, I'm going to put right here, I'm going to put HTTPS : alright, or else we'll get this looping problem. Alright, so this is what we have so far. It looks absolutely disgusting, but we're going to fix it when we add our CSS. Alright, so the last thing we want to do inside of our HTML is just add our elements where we're going to populate our videos. Alright, so we're going to have a UL tag, and I'm going to give it an ID of results. Alright, and we're not going to put anything in it, it's just the UL. And then under it, we'll have a div with the ID of buttons. Okay, so this is where the previous and next buttons are going to go. Alright, so that's it. And we'll also add a footer. Alright, and in the footer, we'll just have a p tag with a copyright. Say copyright. And let's say 2014. I don't know. I'm just going to put all rights reserved. Obviously, this is a fictitious website, application, company. Alright, so that should do it as far as the markup. Alright, so let's go ahead and add some CSS. And in this video, I'm only doing the CSS for the template. This search box we're going to do in the next video along with the search box animation JavaScript. Alright, so let's just do the template. So I want to just zero out everything. So we're going to say padding 0 and margin 0. Okay, this asterisk is basically just a symbol for everything. Alright, in the body, let's see, what do we want to do here? I'm going to use the font family. I'm not exactly sure how to say this. It's SEGOUE. So Sego or Segou. Not exactly sure how it's pronounced, but I want to use it. Alright, the line height I'm going to set to 1.6 em. The color of the text will be a dark gray, and we want to use a background. We have a little texture that we can repeat. Alright, so the color is going to be E1, 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 and then a URL, which is going to go to .image / creampaper.png, which is just a small image that is seamless so we can repeat it. Alright, so we want to keep this blank. We don't want to put no repeat because we want it to repeat in both ways, X and Y. Okay, font size is going to be 14 pixels. Okay, links. Link is going to be color 333, and text decoration. I wish that they would just have none as the default, because underlined links look horrible. Alright, so the container, we're going to give it a width of 740 pixels and give it a background of white and set the margin to auto because we want it in the middle. Alright, and I'm going to add a class for clearfix so that we can clear our floats later on. I'm just going to set this to clear both. Alright, so the header, I'm going to add some padding to the header. Let's do 30 on the top and bottom, 20 on the left and right, and I'm going to give it a background of a light gray. Alright, and then the H1 in the header, we'll give it a color of black, and I want to set a margin bottom margin bottom to 5 pixels. Alright, let's just see how this looks. Alright, so we're getting there. Next I want to do the span in the heading, or header. And all I'm going to do to that is make it that reddish YouTube brand color, which is DD2826. Okay, so the section, which is the main body of the template, what are we going to do here? We're just going to set some padding. Alright, so I want 30 pixels on the top and then 20 everywhere else. Alright, and the footer, we'll give a padding of 20 pixels, and the background of the footer is going to be the same as the header, light gray. Alright, and then we're going to align the text to the center. Whoop. Okay, so that's the footer. I think that's pretty much it for now. We will be doing the search bar in the next video, and then of course we'll have to style the HTML that gets generated from the API, from the JavaScript. But this should be good for now. Let's check it out. Alright, so the header looks good, footer looks good. Alright, so like I said, in the next video we'll work on this search. Hey guys, we got our template pretty much done. Now we want to move on to the search bar. Alright, so before we add our JavaScript to make it animate, we want to style it. Alright, so in the CSS, I'm going to go down here past the footer, and the first thing I want to do is the search form ID. Alright, so I want to make sure that we display it as a block. Alright, and I'm just going to put an initial margin bottom of 15 pixels. Alright, so that's the main form. The field container, okay, so the field container we also want to display as a block. We want to position it relative, and we'll give it a width of 90%, and then a margin 0 on the top and bottom, auto on the left and right. Alright, so now let's do the search button in its hover state. So search, oops. What we got? Search btn hover. Okay, then we're gonna just make it. We're gonna filter the opacity. So filter alpha opacity, and that's gonna be set to 90. And then we'll say opacity set to 0.9. Alright, so basically this here is for older browsers. We just want to set the opacity to 0.9. And let's see. So let's do the search field. I think it's search field. Yeah, we want to do the search field input class. Alright. So search field. Alright, so we got quite a bit to do here. First thing, box sizing. I'm going to set to border box, and we want to make sure it's displayed as a block. And we'll set the width currently, or initially, we're going to set the width to 45%. And give it some padding. We'll do 11 top and bottom, 7 left and right. Actually, I want to change the padding right. Padding right will be 43 pixels, and then the background is going to be white. The color, let's do a gray color. Color and border. Okay, so the border should be 1 pixel solid, and it's going to be a gray color. Okay, font size. Font size, I'm going to do 1.6 M, and I want to change the border bottom color. So border bottom color is going to be D2, E2, E7, and border radius, I'm going to set to 1 pixel, and I want to give it a box shadow as well. Okay, box shadow, we're going to say inset 0, 1 pixel, 2 pixel, and then we're going to do RGBA 0, 0, 0, 0.1 for the opacity. What else? 0, 0, 0, 6 pixels, and then the color will be a grayish color for the shadow. Alright, and I should probably do the vendor prefix versions of this as well. So we'll do Moz and WebKit. And let's do the same thing for box sizing. And border radius. Alright. So let me just see what this looks like right now. Alright. So we're getting there. Next thing I want to do is the search button. Alright, so I'm going to do that. Actually, let me move this hover down here. And then above that, I'll do search button. Okay, so the search button, I'm going to position this absolute, and we're going to say from the right, we're going to go 360 pixels. From the top, just 5 pixels. Alright, and the height, let's give it a height and width of 32 pixels, because this is going to be that little magnifying glass icon thing. Okay, width, and let's make sure the border is set to 0. The cursor, we want to change to a pointer. And zoom, let's give it a zoom of 1. And then I want to change the opacity again, so let me just grab, where was it? Oh, right here. I'll grab this. Okay, except now I want to change this to 65. So that'll be 65, this will be 0.65. And then we'll have background. Which will initially be transparent, and then we're going to add that URL of the search icon. And we want to set that to the top left with no repeat. Alright, let's see how that looks. Okay, I didn't save it. Alright, so that's our button. So now let's try to animate this. Okay, so we're going to go into our JavaScript file. And let's see. Let's call this search bar handler. Alright, and we're going to say function. Alright, so basically when the DOM's ready, we're going to call a function. And let's create a variable for the search field. And that's going to equal jQuery ID query, okay, because we added the ID of query onto the search input. Alright, and then we want another variable for the icon. And that's going to equal jQuery ID search btn. Alright, so focus handler, okay, so we're going to grab the search field. Okay, so this is this icon here, and then we're going to say dot on. We're going to use the on method, and the event that we want is the focus event. Okay, so on focus we want to run a function. Alright, and we're going to say this. Okay, this meaning the search input box, animate. Okay, so we're going to use the animate function, which we haven't used yet this series. So we're going to pass in some options to this animate method. Alright, first is going to be the width. We're going to set to 100%. Alright, actually this should be in quotes. Okay, 100%. And then actually that's the only options we need. We need another parameter after the options, which will be the speed. So I'm going to put 400. Alright, and then after that we need the icon to animate as well. Alright, so we're going to grab that. Okay, we have a variable for icon as well. And icon dot animate. Whoops. Icon dot animate. And let's see, options. And for this, we're going to say right 10 pixels. Alright, and then here, I want to put a comma here. Same thing, 400. Alright, so that's the focus handler. Now let's do the blur event handler. Actually, this should be focus event and blur event. Alright, so for the blur event, I'm actually going to copy this here. Alright, and we're going to say search field dot on blur. And then, actually, let me just get this stuff out of here. Okay, and then we're going to have an if statement. And what we're going to check here is we're going to say if search field. Geez, that was some bad spelling. If search field, the value of search field, so we're going to do dot val is equal to nothing, then we'll say search field dot animate. Alright, and then we're going to pass in width, which will be 45%. Okay, with 45%, and then down here we want a comma, 400. Alright, And then the last parameter here is going to be an empty function. Alright, and then underneath, let's just copy this. Okay, and then we're going to do that with the icon, except we want to change right. I want to change right to 360 pixels. Alright, so let's see what this does. We'll go ahead and save, reload. Okay, so nothing's happening. I'm going to bring up the console. So I obviously made a mistake somewhere. Alright, so I see my mistake. I put quotes here, and these shouldn't have quotes. This is a variable. Alright, same thing here. Alright, so it looks like that's it. Alright, so let's save that. There we go. Alright, so we click in, we click out, search field. Okay, it looks like I spelled search field wrong on line 18. Sorry about that. Okay. Alright, good. So that's our search bar. Alright, so in the next video we will start to work with the API. We'll make the GET requests that we need to make to fetch that information. Alright, so we're going to start to work with the API. If you go to developers.google.com/YouTube/v3, it gives you a ton of information on what you can do with the data API. And if we go down and click on API Reference Guide, this is the documentation, which is really good, really in-depth. And down here you can see the different resource types that we can deal with. Okay, so activities, channels, playlists, subscriptions, thumbnails, videos, categories. What we want to deal with is the search, okay, the search resource. Alright, and search has one method called list, alright. So we want to click on that, and this gives us everything we need to know. Alright, so this is the actual URL that we'll be making the GET request to. And these are the parameters that you can include in that request. Basically, the part is the most important because it's telling the API what we want back. All right, and the part we're going to use is called snippet, and that basically gives us things like the video name, the categories, all the metadata that we need. And we're also going to ask for the ID, the playlist ID. All right, down here you can specify different things for content owner, so you can search videos that's by one person or by yourself. For mine, you can search for videos that are related to another video. Channel ID, so you can search one channel, channel type, event type, location. There's just a ton of information that you can get. We want to look at this Q parameter because this stands for query. Alright, so the query we send through that form, this is what it's going to be stored as. Alright, and then we also want to include the type. Like I said, you can search for channels, playlists, and videos. We only want the videos, so we're going to use type video. And we also need our key. Okay, that's another parameter, is your API key. Alright, and let's see. We're also going to be dealing with next page token and previous page token, so we can have those previous and next buttons at the bottom of our results. And this gives you all kinds of examples in different languages. If we click JavaScript, this is a little different than what we're doing. We're not going to use the client library. We're just going to make straight GET requests through jQuery. But you can use the library, and you can of course use other languages as well. PHP, I've dealt with that quite a bit. And that's really it. And down here we can actually try it. Alright, so let's, for part, which is required, let's say we want snippet, and then down in our query, we'll search for web design, and we can specify our max results, all kinds of stuff. And then for, let's see, type, we want video. I don't know if it's video or videos. Let me check real quick. Type video. Alright. So now if we do execute, it's going to give us our response. Okay, so these are the results in JavaScript notation. Okay, so we have, let's see, the channel ID, the title of the video, the description, the thumbnails, links to the thumbnails, the title, channel title, and you can see it gives us, I think, 5 results by default. Alright, so this is where we're going to get all the information to stick in our page. Alright, so let's go ahead and go back to our JavaScript file, and we want to create our search function. Alright, so function search. And the first thing I want to do is set our results div and our buttons div to nothing. Okay, I want it empty, so that if we make a search request, get a bunch of results, and then make another one, we don't want that to be added on top of the other ones. We want the other ones to disappear and then put the new ones in. Alright, so clear results, and we're going to use jQuery to get results. Okay, so what we're going to do is use the HTML method, which is going to set it to what we want, and we just want to set it to nothing. Alright, we're going to do the same thing with the buttons. Alright, next we want to grab the query that's going through the form. Alright, so get form input, and we're going to set that in a variable called q. Okay, we're going to set this to the ID query, query.val. That'll get us the value. Now we need to make our request, our get request. Okay, so we'll say run get request on API. Okay, so to do this, there's a lot of different ways you can do this in jQuery. We're going to use the get method. Okay, so we want to do a $.get. Alright, and then inside there, we get to include a bunch of things. The first is going to be the URL. Let's use double quotes. Alright, so the URL, if we go back to the YouTube page, is going to be this right here. Okay, so we want to grab this and put that right in the get. Alright. Then we're going to do a comma, and we're going to add our options. Okay, this is where we define the things like part that we actually did through the test form they have at Google. And this is going to be snippet, and I also want to grab the ID. Alright, next we'll have the query, which is a Q, and we made our variable Q as well, so we're going to put that in. Okay, next we want the type, and the type is going to be video. Alright, and then we need our API key. Okay, so actually we don't want quotes here. Key, and then let me just grab that real quick. And you want to put this in quotes. Alright. Let's actually bring this back here, and then we need a comma. So, comma. Now we're going to run a function. Okay, and we're going to pass in the data variable, because we're going to get some data from this request, and then we can use that data. Now, what we want to do first here is we want to get the next page token and the previous page token. All right, so that if we're on a page that can go forward or backward, we want to know that so that we can provide it, so we can add our buttons at the bottom. All right, so I'm going to create a variable called next page token, and I'm going to set that equal to data dot next page token. All right, and data dot, that's how we can access whatever. We can access the video title, things like that. All right, and I'm going to do the same thing for the previous page token. Okay, previous page token. And I always like to log the data, console.log, and we can log the actual data. And then what we want to do is we need an each loop. All right, and then we want to pass in data dot items. Actually, you know what? Let's just check it out. Before we do that, let's check this out in the console and see what we get. All right, so save that, and then go back to search vids, and I'm going to press F12 for Chrome tools, and then we want to just do a search. Actually, let me reload first. Okay, and we'll say web design. Okay, so you know what? We need to stop the form from actually submitting. Alright, so I'm going to go back up here. Okay, and we want to go inside the search bar handler, and down at the bottom we're going to grab the search form. Alright, so we're going to say search form dot submit function. Okay, and then the function I want to pass in the event, I just want to stop it from submitting. So here we'll do e dot prevent default. Okay, so that's going to prevent the default behavior of the form, and so it doesn't actually submit. Alright, so let's save that and try that again. Alright, so now down here in the console you can see that we've logged an object. Okay, if I open that object, we have an items array. If I open that, you can see each option we have in the array, and you can see we have an ID. Alright, and if we click on that, it's going to give us the video ID. And then, let's see, right here, no, that's not it. Snippet, here it is, snippet. Open that up and you can see all the results. Okay, you can see the channel title, the description, the actual title of the video, the thumbnails object. Alright, and it's getting 5 results because that's the default. We can change that if we want. Alright, so that it's working, we're making the request. Alright. And we can also see it in our network tab. You can see that this is what it's giving us, the same thing. Okay, so what we want to do is loop through the items. So let's go back down here, and we're going to do our each loop. Okay, so we want to loop through the items, and we can do that using data.items. Alright, data.items, and then for the next parameter is going to be a function. Actually, what did I do? I shouldn't have. Actually, yeah, that's fine. Function. Wait a minute. Let's do that over. Okay, so we have each, and then inside of there data.items, and then we want a function. Alright, there we go. And the function here is going to get passed in I in item. Alright, we'll be able to access every individual item through this loop. So what we want to do is build our HTML output here. Alright, but I don't want to put it all in this loop. So what I'm going to do is we're going to create a custom function for our data just to build all our output. Alright, so I'm going to say variable output is going to be equal to the function get output. And of course we need to pass in here the item variable, which is coming from here. Okay, so this will be full of our list items with all the video titles and H3 tags and all that. Alright, so what we want to do after we get that is append it to our results unordered list. Okay, so display results. Okay, so we're going to grab results and say dot append output. Okay, put a little comment here as well. Alright, so now what we want to do is build that get output function. But I think before we do that, we should start that in a new video, just because it's going to take a while to get all our variables, to create the HTML and all that. So we'll do that in the next section. Alright, so we've made our initial GET request and we're getting data back from the API. So what we've done is created a loop, and in that loop created a function to get the output that we need. Alright, and then we passed in the actual item from the data. Alright, so we need to go down here and we'll say build output. Okay, and this is going to be function get output, and we're going to pass in the item. Alright, and the first thing I want to do is define all our variables, everything we need. Okay, so the first one being the video ID. So I'm going to set this video ID, and the way we can get this is using item and then dot the part that we need, and the video ID isn't in the snippet, it's in the ID. Okay, remember up here we asked for the snippet and the ID. Okay, so item dot ID dot video ID. Okay, that's going to give us that. Next we want the title, so variable title is going to be equal to item, and now the title is in the snippet part, so we're going to say snippet item snippet title. Alright, and everything else is in the snippet part, so I'm actually just going to copy this. Okay, we need our description. So snippet.description. Alright, we also want the thumb. So thumb is going to be equal to item dot snippet dot thumbnails dot high dot URL. So that's going to give us a high quality thumbnail. Alright, next is going to be the channel title. Okay, channel title is going to be equal to item snippet channel title, and then the date. So video date equals item dot snippet, and this is going to be published at. Okay, that'll give us the date. So we have everything, all our objects, I guess you could call them, So now we want to build our output string. Alright, so we'll create a variable called output. Alright, and we're going to set that equal to... Alright, so we're going to do quite a bit of HTML here, and instead of doing it all in one confusing line that goes across 3 pages, I'm just going to concatenate on each line so that we can actually see the output and read it. Alright, so we'll have an li tag, okay, and then I'm going to concatenate onto the next line just to make it readable. Alright, and we're going to have a div, the class. The class is going to be list left. Okay, so div class list left. Okay, we'll go on the next line. And the plus is what concatenates for us. Alright, so the next is going to be in the image. So image, and we're going to set the src to our thumb variable up here, okay? Because this is equal to the location of that thumb image. Alright, now to use this variable inside of here, we need to concatenate. Alright, so we're going to put 2 single quotes and then 2 plus signs, and then put the variable in the middle here, which will be, I'm sorry, thumb. Okay. Image, that looks good. And then we can close this here. Okay. So next line. Next line, we're going to close the div. And then we're going to have another div with a class. And this is going to be list right. Okay, list right. And this is going to be our h3. Okay, so we'll have an h3. Whoops. Okay, and then we're going to have a link, so a class. Actually, you know what? We don't need to do this yet. We don't need to add the FancyBox stuff yet. We'll do that later. So the h3, basically, I'm just going to have the title for now. So we're going to concatenate the title variable. Alright, and then under that I want to have some small text. So I'm going to use the small tag. Alright, basically I want it to say by, and then the channel title, and then the date. Okay, so we'll have the text by, and then I'm going to wrap in a span. Let's see, span class equals C title. Okay, so this will be the channel title wrapped in a span. Okay, so right here I'm going to concatenate channel title. Okay, that looks good. And then after the span, we're going to say on, and then the date, we're going to concatenate the date. Video date. Video date, small. Alright, so that's good for that line. Okay, next we're going to have our description. Okay, so that's going to be in a paragraph. So inside this paragraph, we want to concatenate our description. Alright. Okay, so next we want to close this div, the list right div. And then we want to close the li tag. And then finally I want to add a clear fix so that we can clear any floats. Okay, clear fix. Alright, and then we'll end this. Okay, and then we just want to return output. Okay, so you can see we just built all the HTML that's going to be inside of each iteration or each list item. So let's save this and let's see if this works. Let's just see what it does at least. Okay. So it's giving us the video. Actually, wait a second. It's not giving us all the information. If we go to items, and we have snippet. So it's giving us our request. It's just, you know what, let's just no, you see it's giving us the divs. That's correct. The list item, list left has the image. List right just has an H3 tag, so that's confusing me a little bit. Okay, so we have the H3 with title. Oh, we didn't add a plus sign here. Alright. Alright, so hopefully that fixes it. And it's not going to look good yet because we haven't added the CSS. Alright, so now you can see it's given us the title, the channel title, the date, the description. Alright, so that's perfect. So now we need to style this result. Alright, so let's go to our style sheet. Alright, and the first thing we'll do is the results itself. So results, actually we don't need to do the actual UL. We'll do the list items. Okay, I'm going to set padding 10 pixels 0. And border bottom is going to be 1 pixel and light gray and dotted. Okay, next we want to make sure we don't have any bullets, so list style none and set overflow to auto. Alright, now let's do the list left and list right. So we have list left. I'm going to float it to the left, and let's give it a width of 20%. Okay, so list left is what holds the image. Alright, so now we want the image dot list left image, and we're going to set that to the width of 100%, and the 100% is going to be the list left. Alright, so it's not going to be 100% of the page, it's going to be 100% of its parent div, or its parent class. And we'll do padding 3 pixels and a border solid 1 pixels. Okay, and then we'll do the right. That's where all the text will go for the video. So we'll float it to the right. Alright, and then the width, I'm going to put that to 78%. Okay, so we have the channel title. I just want to change that to a red color. And that's going to be DD 2826. And let's try that. Alright, there we go. So that looks good. So now what we need to do is get our buttons. Alright, so we're going to go back into the JavaScript and go back up to our request, and we want to go right under the each loop. Okay, so the each loop ends here, so we want to go under this and set another variable to buttons, and that's going to equal a function called getButtons, which we'll build. And we're going to pass in our page tokens. Okay, so we have the next page, and then the previous page. Previous page I want to put first. Alright, and then under that, we just wanted to display the buttons. Alright, so we'll grab the buttons div, and we'll say .append buttons. Okay, so now we need to create get buttons. We'll do that right under get output. Alright, so we want to pass in these Alright, so I'm going to say if there is no previous page token, then I'm going to build the output. So variable btn output is going to be equal to div class button container. Alright, I'm going to do the same thing that we did with the results. We're going to concatenate new lines. So button is going to have an ID of next button. Alright, and we'll have a class of paging button, and we got to pass in the data token. Okay, so data token, and we need to pass in this variable, the next page token. Alright, so I'm going to grab this, and we're going to have to concatenate this in here with 2 single quotes and then 2 plus signs. Okay, put that in there. I'm actually going to move this over a little bit. Okay, data token is equal to page. Now we need the data query. Okay, so after this double quote, we need data query, and again we need to concatenate, and we're going to do the q variable. Alright, and let me just let's go to a new line here. Okay, data query, and let's see, what am I doing next? Now we need an on-click event handler, because this is going to go to a function called next page, which we're going to create. So on click equals next page. Alright, and I think that's it for the attributes of this button. The text, we'll just say next page. Alright. Oh, and we just need our div here, our closing div tag. Okay, so we have a div with the class of button container, and that's holding our button. Alright, now that's if there's no previous page token. if there is a previous page token, then we want to obviously include the previous button as well. Okay, we don't want just the next. So here we're going to say else. Okay, so basically we're saying if it does include the previous page, then I'm going to copy what we just did, this whole output. Alright, and then we will just want to add in the previous page right. I'm going to copy this whole button. Okay, copy that. And let's see, I'll go right here. And paste that in. Alright, and then I'm going to change this to previous. This too. And then on click is going to go to previous page. Okay. Alright, and then we just want to return button output. Okay, so that is going to return it up here. Okay, and it's going to be put here, and then we're going to display it. So let's try that out. Alright, something's wrong here. This isn't even opening. So we obviously have something going on. Unexpected identifier 102. Alright, so this whole concatenating thing is messed up somehow. Let me just put all this on one line. Alright, so let's start here. Okay, that's fine. Let's take this off. Okay, so data query. Hold on, let me go back. We didn't concatenate this queue. This should have a plus sign on each side. And did we do it here? We did the same thing here. Put that there. Alright, let's give that a shot. Reload. Okay, so web design, search, next page. Alright. So we do have a next page piece of text. It's not a link though. Let me just see what it looks like. Next page. Oh, okay, so next page is not defined. We didn't create it yet. And you can see that that quote here, the double quote, is on the wrong side of the button container class. So let me check that out. Okay, right here. This should be here. Same thing right here. Alright, let's see if that was it. Alright, now we have a button. So we need to create the next and previous page functions, and we will do that in the next video. Alright guys, so we have the results displayed fine, and we have our next button, and it's not doing anything yet because we haven't created the next function, which this is going to. But before we do that, I just want to make the button look a little better. So I'm going to go to the CSS, and first of all, the button container. I'm going to add a margin top of 25 pixels. Okay, and then the actual buttons, which have a class of paging button. I'm going to give it a background of gray, padding of 8 and 13. Border will be gray, 1 pixel solid. And let's see, let's give it a border radius of 5 pixels. Color, dark gray. Margin, 10 pixels. And cursor, we want to be a pointer. Alright, so that should make it look a little better. There we go. Alright, so let's go ahead and build the next page and previous page functions, which are basically going to do the same thing as the search, except we're just going to pass in the next page token. Alright, so under our search function, we'll say next page function. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy everything from the search function. Okay, so everything goes to here. Alright, so everything in between search and its ending curly brace, I'm going to copy and paste right in here. Alright, now I'm going to create an additional variable here called token, and I'm going to set that to let's see, an ID next button dot data token. Alright, so basically that's going to come from the data attribute. Down here, if we look at our generated buttons, for the next button, which is right here, we're passing in, whoops, this is wrong. This ID should be previous button. Alright, so we're looking at the next button and we're passing in a data token which has the actual next page token from the request. And it also has a property called data query, so we're going to grab that as well. Alright, so using this data function is how you can grab those attributes. Okay, you don't actually put in data token, even though that's the name of the attribute. You just want to use dot data and then the second word. Alright, so we'll do the same thing with the query. We'll say next button dot data query. Actually, I want this to just be Q. Alright, and then if we go down here, we just want to pass in an additional option here called page token, and we're going to set that to token. Alright, and that's really it. The rest of it stays the same. So let's save that, reload, do a search. Okay, we have a next button, next. Alright, let's go on to the next page. Previous isn't doing anything because we need to create that function, which is going to be extremely similar to next. So I'm just going to copy that whole thing. Where is it? Right to here. Alright, so under next, we'll do previous. Alright, we want to grab the previous button data. Alright, I think everything else should be the same. Okay, it's in the variable token, so this doesn't matter. Alright, so let's try that. Okay, so web design, search, next. Okay, we can go next, fine. Let's go back. Previous goes back, goes back to the first page, which doesn't have a previous. Alright, so it's working perfectly. So the final thing that I want to do is the lightbox. Okay, so we want to be able to click on a video and have the lightbox show up so we can watch it. Alright, so we're going to use something called FancyBox. Just search for it. Alright, so let's go ahead and download it. It's going to take us to this page, and we want to go to License and Download, and Download. Okay, so that's going to give you a zip package. If you open that up, go to Source, and we have quite a few things here we need to bring over to our file structure. Okay, so for the JavaScript folder, we want to bring over this FancyBox pack. Okay, we want to bring that over. And then if we go into helpers, we want the buttons JavaScript, media, and thumbs JavaScript. Okay, bring those over. Now the CSS, we want to bring the buttons and thumbs CSS, and also this here, CSS. Alright, and the images, let's go to our images folder, and I believe we already have them. Yeah, I put them in there at the beginning of this chapter. If you haven't, then just take all the images out and put them in there. Okay, take this buttons. Okay, so I already have it. Alright, so now let's go to our index page, and we have to make sure we include all these files. So our CSS, okay, I forget what it was called. FancyBox, jQuery.fancybox.css. And I'm not sure. I don't think we need these buttons and thumbs. I'm just going to leave those for now. I don't think we need those. I don't think we actually need to include them. Alright, so let's go to the JavaScript. Okay, so let's see. I want this to go to jQuery.fancybox.pack.js. Alright, and then we need to call the plugin. So I'm going to create another script here. And we're going to say document.ready. Okay, so when the document's ready, we want to run a function. And this function is going to take the FancyBox class, alright, that we'll create, and it's going to call the FancyBox plugin. Alright, so that's it. Now we need to do some things for it to actually pick up on these videos and be able to open them. We need to surround the video title with a link with a specified class, with this FancyBox class. So we need to go to the JavaScript, and inside of the get output down here, we have this h3 around the title, and that's it. We need to make a link inside of here. Okay, so right here, let's start and say a class. Class is going to be FancyBox, and then also FancyBox.iframe. Okay, so that'll be the class. Let's see, what else do we need here? We need the href. Href equals. Alright, so this is going to go to the YouTube. It's going to point to the actual YouTube video. Alright, so it's going to go to http www.youtube.com/embed slash, and then we need the video ID. So we need to concatenate that on video ID. Alright, and that should be good. Let's close that A tag. Alright, so it's actually the embed code, so it's not the actual YouTube URL. Alright, so let's just try that for now. Alright, so we have links on the titles. If I click it, alright, so it's going right to the video in another page. So something's off. Huh. Alright, so I'm seeing the problem here. This class we have is FancyBox. Okay, so this should be FancyBox. Alright, so I'm going to try it again. There we go. Alright. So that's it. One more thing. You can see that we don't have our close button up here or any arrows or anything. That's because the image path is wrong. Alright, so what we need to do is to go into jQuery.fancybox.css, and I'm just going to search for the images here. Image. Okay, so you can see this here. This is just going right in the same directory looking for this image, and it needs to go back out and then into image. Okay, same thing with these. Alright, so let's see if that works. Alright, good. So now we have our play button. Oh, actually, no, that was there. We have the close button. I guess we don't, well, yeah, I guess we don't need arrows. Why would we? Yeah, so that's good. I think we're done. Yep. Alright, so that is our YouTube search engine. I know this chapter was a little long and maybe a little difficult to understand, but just go through it, maybe watch it again, really get a feel for the data API and what you can do, because you'll be able to build some really cool apps if you can really get the hang of it. So I hope you learned a lot, and I will see you in the next project.